From hell to heaven? Burning in hell for all eternity? Jesus explains. Jesus Christ reveals through Jakob Lorber. Robert Blum Excerpt from chapter 226. Says Joseph, I lack only one more thing, enlightenment on the almost universal Christian sect's concept of a so-called everlasting punishment. Is there such? If one receives an eternal reward for an honest and righteous lifestyle upon earth, thus one can also assume that there exists an eternal punishment. For if here in the kingdom of spirits there is an eternal reward for a brief noble deed, there must also be an everlasting condition of punishment for a brief evil deed. I find this assumption quite logical. Say I, you think so, but not I, because I could have only kept one purpose in mind for everything created. Being life eternal myself, how could I have created beings for eternal death? Hence, a so-called punishment can only be a means for attaining the major purpose, but never for a hostile counter-purpose. Therefore, there can be no talk of an everlasting punishment, ever. Says Joseph, Lord, eternal thanks, love and honor to you. Now I fully grasp this. Yet there is, in the Holy Scripture, clearly written about a fire that never goes out, and of a worm that never dies. It is also written, Depart from me, ye accursed, to the eternal fire, prepared for the devil and his servants. Indeed, Lord, I am aware of many passages where hell is most vividly mentioned. If, however, there is no eternal punishment, and it is even up to the prisoner himself how long he stays there, then I altogether fail to see how there can be talk of eternal fire in the scripture. Say I, dearest friend, there is indeed mention of an eternal death, which is an everlastingly solid judgment that proceeds from my eternal order. This, however, is the so-called wrath, or rather zeal-fire of my will, which has of course to remain unalterable for eternity, or there would be a full end to all creation. Whoever allows himself to be enraptured by the world and its matter, which surely has to remain under judgment, or it would not be world, is of course lost and is to be regarded as dead for as long as one cannot separate himself from it. There has to be an eternal judgment, an eternal fire, and an eternal death because of the created ones. But this does not mean that a captive spirit has to remain captive for the entire course of the duration of the judgment. Just as on earth, if you build a solid prison, should then the prisoners therefore also be condemned for as long as the prison exists? Are not prison and imprisonment two separate things? The prison certainly stays forever, and the fire of my zeal must never go out. But the prisoners remain in prison only until they have reformed and bettered themselves. There is, by the way, in the scripture nowhere the slightest mention of complete rejection of a spirit, but only eternal damnation of non-order in view of my eternal order, which is essential or nothing could endure. Vice, as counter-order, is indeed everlastingly condemned, but the sinner only for as long as he remains within sin. So, there also exists in truth an eternal hell, but no spirit is condemned to hell for all eternity, but only until his betterment. I did indeed say to the Pharisees, For that you shall receive a much longer damnation, but never for that you shall be condemned forever. Do you now understand your seemingly threatening scriptural passages?